And welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and we got some new commanders from New Capenna. Streets of New Capenna, which is the new set coming out. And as most of you probably already know, there are guilds in this set, 3-color guilds. They are the shards, so that's what we're going to be getting here. Probably a whole lot of cards in the different 3-color combinations, and of course a lot of commanders in them as well. And we got 3 here already. And I'm going to start out with Jetmir, Nexus of Revels. 1 red, green, and a white cat demon. That is a very interesting creature type. So a lot of cat support in Naya colors. 5/4. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have vigilance as long as you control 3 or more creatures. Okay. So you want a creature heavy deck here for sure. Creatures you control also get +1/+0 and have trample as long as you control 6 or more creatures. Okay, so the more creatures you have, the better it's going to get, right? So if you have 6 creatures, you're going to get +2/+0 vigilance and trample, right? Yep. Creatures you control also get +1/+0 and have double strike as long as you control 9 or more creatures. Wow. So I think once you get to 9 creatures, it's probably game over, right? It's sort of like a built-in win con with your commander, which is pretty interesting, right? Instead of having to use an overrun effect, all your creatures are going to have +3/+0, vigilance, trample, and double strike. So if you have 9 creatures, I mean, assuming that maybe a couple of them might have summoning sickness, nevertheless, I mean, it's interesting. It's very much, this would be an interesting cat tribal one, I think, because there's a lot of support in those colors. Your cat commander's a cat, and obviously if you're doing cats already, you're probably just doing a lot of attacking. So I think it would fit that theme if you want to go with cat tribal with this. Other than that, it's just another go wide commander. It's definitely a go wide strategy, no question about that. Just a creature heavy deck. You could just put a lot of good stuff creatures in here. Really not much else to talk about. Next up, we got Raffine, Scheming Seer. White, blue, and a black Sphinx Demon. Another really weird creature type. Okay. 1/4 flying, ward 1. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. Connives. That's funny when you see it on a Magic card. Okay. So that must be the new ability from the set. Draw X cards, then discard X cards. Put a +1/+1 counter on that creature for each non-land card discarded this way. So that's what conniving is, obviously. So you're going to connive X, where X is the number of attacking creatures, which means you're going to loot, right? That's the typical term there. But also, so it's looting, plus you're putting counters on stuff, right? You put a +1/+1 counter on that creature for each non-land card discarded this way. So the wording on this ability is a little confusing. It's whenever you attack, target attacking creature connive. So that means you don't have to attack with your commander. You just attack with any creature. So if you attack with one creature, you're going to connive that creature. So you're going to draw 1 card and discard 1 card and then put a +1/+1 counter on that creature for each non-land card. So assuming you discard a non-land card, you'll put a counter on it. So again, this is another go-wide strategy, right? You're going to want to attack with a bunch of creatures. I mean, first of all, this seems like it'd be a pretty great fit in a Verena Lich Queen deck, right? Because you're already doing the looting thing. I mean, Verena cares about zombies. This one does not. Nevertheless, I mean, it would definitely fit in the 99 of a Verena deck pretty easily, I think, because it's doing the looting. Put a bunch of counters on your commander, make it bigger, seems pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a similar theme there. Lots of looting. Obviously, there's tons you can do with looting because you are drawing lots of cards and also discarding lots of cards. So you can do, like, whenever you draw a card, do X, like a Chasm Skulk or something like that. You can also do, whenever you draw a second card each turn, those effects work here as well. Archmage Ascension, one of my favorite cards that I try to get working in decks, will work here. And also you're doing a bunch of discarding. So you're going to want Bone Miser, you're going to want Archfiend of Ifnir, you're going to want all that. Like, Archfiend of Ifnir is bananas in a Verena deck, and it's going to be here as well, because pretty much every time you attack, you're going to just destroy all your opponent's creatures, which is unreal. But you gotta here. You have to just I guess you're conniving X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So again, you want to go wide strategy, right? You want to attack with at least like 3-4 creatures to get some decent effect out of this. But so I guess you are. This isn't really cut and dry because you do want to do the draw discard thing and take advantage of that. You're doing +1/+1 counters too, so that could be significant. You could throw a little bit, and there's a lot going on here. You could throw a little bit of +1/+1 counter theme, and then also you are in a gold wide strategy, right? If you're only attacking with one creature, it's not going to do much. So I think you really want, and you can do tokens, right? It doesn't even matter what you're attacking with. Just you want the more the merrier, right? Because the number of attacking creatures. So pretty interesting. But I saved the best for last, and I briefly looked this guy over, and I was just like, oh boy, here we go. So Lord Xander the Collector, 4 blue, black, and a red. So a Grixis commander, or whatever they're calling it in the new set. I'm sure they have a new name for it. This one's a vampire, demon, and noble. So it's got a few, and again, vampire, demon, that might be something that we've already seen before. It's a 6/6. 7 mana is a lot, but I think you're getting a lot for what you're paying here. When Lord Xander the Collector enters the battlefield, target opponent discards half the cards in their hand rounded down. That kind of sucks for whoever that opponent is. Whenever Lord Xander attacks, defending player mills half their library rounded down. Whoa. Okay, I mean, we already have, what's that great big fish that already does that, so... Also, though, when Lord Xander dies, target opponent sacrifices half the non-land permanents they control, rounded down. That's the big one for me. Like, the first two, I mean, here's the thing. If I'm building this deck, and, I mean, you could build a pretty good mill deck with this, right? Put a bunch of haste enablers in here, have your commander attack immediately. You know, you could do that. I don't think that's the best way to go here. I don't even think this would be the best mill commander. I mean, there's probably better options, even though whenever it attacks, defending player mills half their library, that sounds really wow. For me, I'm building around, first of all, the first ability is just great. You can just, whoever your opponent is who's drawing lots of cards or has lots of cards in hand, you make them discard half their hand. That's pretty damn good. And then the last ability, whenever Lord Xander dies, target opponent sacrifice half their non-land permanents. Like, that is so good. And you are going to want to make sure your commander dies. That last ability is the best one as far as I'm concerned. So you're going to want to make sure you have sack outlets. You do not want your Lord Xander dying to a swords or a path, right? You don't want it getting exiled, right? So when Lord Xander dies, target opponent sacrifice half the non-land permanents they control. That's how you win the game, I think, with this deck. And I'm definitely going to put sack outlets in here for sure, which won't be a problem. There's tons of those in Grixis colors, right? So that you're guaranteed to get that. And then I would also do, because you're sacrificing your commander, do some recursion. This could be a problematic one. This could be, I'm not sure what the reactions are on this yet, but this feels very unfun to play against. I know that I would not love, I mean, even without any real deep dive into this, just making you discard half your hand is super unfun. Any discard theme at all is super unfun. The milling I'm not so concerned about. The discard's super unfun, and the sacking half the non-land permanents. And then on top of all that, this is target opponent. So it really feels bad when you pick one guy. You're sort of like sticking it to that one person. And if it's a very obvious choice that the person with a ton of cards in hand is going to be the one who's discarding, okay. And if the guy who's way ahead on board is the one that's going to be sacrificing half their non-land permanents, but what if that's not the case, right? What if you play your Lord Xander and everyone's got the same amount of cards in hand? Now you have to choose one guy to pick on, right? And then what happens if your Xander dies? And by the way, it's target opponent sacrifices half their non-land permanents. There's no May here, right? So if someone just cast a board wipe, you have to pick an opponent that's going to sacrifice half their non-land permanents. And if everyone's in about the same place, that makes for a very unfun game. It really just, I mean, if you've ever played a game, and I just played one with my patrons the other day, where one guy's mana screwed and he's just not drawing lands, it makes the game less fun. right? You're not sitting there in a commander game going, oh, sweet, that guy's mana screwed. It's going to give me a better chance of winning. Nobody's doing that, right? What you're doing is going, oh man, I wish that guy would. Everyone feels bad for him and they want him to draw lands so that he can get in the game, because that's the whole idea in the first place, is the four of us are going to sit down and have a fun game together. So you never want one person to be way behind. It makes the game uneven. And Lord Xander is doing that. His both of his, well, all of his abilities, but particularly his first and his third ability are specifically designed to put one player behind in the game by a lot, either from discarding half their hand or from sacrificing all their non-land permanents. And I know it might seem like a good idea if you have one person who's way ahead, or maybe if you have one person who's got like a, I don't know, a Tulane or a Corval deck or something. I mean, I guess it wouldn't work very good against a Corval deck. They just draw a ton of cards. But even then, it doesn't feel great in a game, from my experience, in a 4-player game, to have one person that gets pushed way behind. I know you could play this, have one person have half their hand go away, and then when this dies, you pick another person, because you don't want to pick the same person probably. Still, though, it feels very unfun. It feels like a Tergrid and a Nicol Bolas combined or something. You know, it doesn't feel like a commander that would be really great in a casual game. I don't know. Not super excited to play against this one for sure. But anyway, that is all. That is 3 new commanders from Streets of New Capenna. So all these new cards coming out already. And as usual, I talk about the legendary creatures as they get spoiled, because I think those are the most significant and they're going to impact the format the most. So stay tuned for more, but that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.